Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes weekly webisodes. I'm Sara Newman, and I'm so happy you're joining me for this episode of Saturday with Sara. Today, I'm excited to show you this sweet collection from our friends at Stamperia called Whispering Woods. We have pattern papers, we have lots of rub-on transfers, and we have a pack of die-cut chipboard embellishments, and everything is perfectly coordinated. So let's take a closer look, and we can start with our paper pack. So I'll move aside the embellishments just for now, and we can flip through and take a look at these designs. The 8x8 paper pack has 10 double-sided sheets, plus a bonus sheet on the inside front cover, as well as the inside back cover. So here you've got lots of fussy cut elements, and then here on the inside front cover, you also have lots of words and sentiments that work nicely on the front of a card or as your message on the inside. And then as we flip through this collection, you can see these beautiful illustrations, really sweet, absolutely beautiful color palette that's included in here. We've got fairies, we've got frogs, a really fun little mushroom house here too, as well as your all over pattern papers to go along. Now, Stamperia also likes to include lots of floral elements, as you can see here, plus there's some script in the background to create kind of collaged backgrounds. Just beautiful designs, and I absolutely love the gnomes. I think they're adorable. So here are the pattern papers, and then on the inside here too, you've also got several sheets of cutout elements. So this is really easy to cut apart with your paper trimmer. And these cutouts will have illustrations on one side. On the other side, you've got some nice borders, but also lots of room to do your own personalization. So this is where those rub-ons or the die-cut chipboard pieces look really nice when you layer those up. Here we've got 6 smaller designs, again illustrated on one side, beautiful borders on the other side. And then here is the other sheet. Again, lots of nice sentiments included here. And then you can do your own thing on the other side if you wish. And then here we've got the inside back cover with those fussy cut elements. Now to go along, we also have rub-ons. So we've got lots of collections here. We've got flowers. Just have a look at those beautiful floral designs. Of course, there are fairies too. And then the gnomes, one of my favorite sets here. This little guy is adorable. We've got frogs, and then we've also got trees. Now, all of these will have instructions on the back cover, but of course, I will demo those for us today too. And then finally, we've got the pack of die-cut chipboard embellishments. There are 47 altogether, and so I put them onto 2 background sheets so that you can see the variety of the contents. So lots of nice large-sized elements that work beautifully as card focals. And then you've also got some smaller pieces here too, the sentiments as well as some leaves and little mushrooms and other accents that you can use to create your own collage or elements on the front or the inside of your card. So as you can see, we have a lot of fabulous papers and embellishments to play with today. I'm really glad you're here, and I'm so excited to explore the possibilities with you. So come play with us. Let's start with this card, which features one of my very favorite die-cut chipboard pieces, the sweet gnome. Now he's about 4 inches tall, which makes him a perfect size for my card focal. And my card size is 5 by 6.5 inches. So it's a really nice platform for some of these larger embellishments, as well as our scenery background paper. Now this paper collection has a lot of landscape or scenery background pages included here. This is the one that I've used, and you can see that I've kind of trimmed out from the center section of this design. And because this paper collection has so many landscape papers, you can really easily put together a card using just one of the backgrounds as well as a large chipboard piece. So I've got my sweet little gnome here, but I could have used maybe one of the fairies kind of standing here looking out into the horizon, or for example, this little fairy could be flying in. You've got lots of different designs to choose from. Here's another one that also has this kind of landscape pattern down at the bottom. And our little fairy could be flying in here as well. It's not just for the fairies. I thought this would be a really fun combination with the boot that has the mushroom growing out of the top of it. So you have a lot of different options just in choosing one of those background pattern papers and then any one of those larger focal chipboard pieces. So for my card, I've trimmed down the pattern paper slightly smaller than my card front, and then I've inked around the edges using the Muddy Boots ink pad and a blending brush, and of course working on top of my craft mat here. This is a really easy technique for adding shading and contrast around the outside edges, and really simple to do as well. So I'm going to bring in one of those cutouts from the paper collection, and we can take a look at how easy this is to do. So first, all I'm going to do is pick up a little bit of color from my ink pad, and then I'm going to hold my cutout here right on top of my craft mat, and using that blending brush, I'm going to blend from my craft mat onto the pattern paper. And this helps me to get a really soft and subtle edging around here. And I can kind of sweep some of that color from my craft mat along the edges. Start with a light touch because you can always add more ink, but you can't take it away. So starting subtly and then working in with more color is generally the way to go. And so I'm just working this around all four sides, and then I will have some beautiful shading and dimension along the outside edge of my die cut or paper piece. And then to clean up my craft mat, of course, all I need to do is just take a damp cloth or a baby wipe and sweep up that color, and I'm ready to go. So that's what I've done with the outside edges of my pattern paper here before gluing that to the front of my card. And then I've glued my gnome down here, and then I added the basket chipboard piece slightly overlapping. Plus I have the heart and this message chipboard piece. Now, one tip, when you're layering chipboard elements like this, it's a good idea to use foam tape on the overlapping edges so the piece is level on your card, so you don't have this kind of going off to one side or the other. Then for my card inside, I have a strip of that wood pattern paper here, plus this little frog rub-on. Now he comes from the frog rub-on set, and again, here's another look. Here he is. And he goes right onto one of those cutout elements there, very cute. And then I've got some foliage up here, and the foliage comes from the Gnomes set. So there's this little foliage branch, which I've got coming just from the outside corner here. And then I've got everything kind of overlapping together. Then I added the mushroom chipboard piece and the You Make Me Smile cutout, which is from the inside front cover of the paper pack. Our next card uses one of my other favorite chipboard pieces, which is this mushroom design here. And again, I've simply cut down a piece of scenery background paper to go behind that beautiful chipboard piece. This is the sheet that I'm using, so you can see I've really taken advantage of that beautiful border down at the bottom, as well as this open space here in the center, which I've filled with rub-on embellishments to go behind my chipboard piece. Now, before I've assembled my card, I first covered it with this light green solid cardstock, and this comes from the Nature's Touch cardstock pack. It's this sheet right here, but you can see all of these other colors just work beautifully with the color palette in today's pattern paper collection. So that came together really easily. So I first covered the front of my card with the light green, trimmed down my scenery pattern paper to be slightly smaller, and I've inked around the outside edges with the Muddy Boots ink pad as well as the blending brush as before, and then glued that down onto the card front. And then I've added my rub-on. So you can see I've got one of the floral elements here. This is kind of overlapping a little bit. I've also got one of the elements with the berries here and up here. All of these are coming from the Flowers rub-on set. So here's that floral element tilted around to be going the opposite direction, and then I've got those beautiful berry and foliage elements. Of course, I've also got some sentiments on there too. Now, I mentioned that these are really easy to use, so let's have a look. Got one of the cutouts here, and then I've also got one of the rub-ons. Now, the tool I need is a bone folder, so I've got that ready to go as well. So I've trimmed this out from the main sheet of rub-ons, and when I did that, I was careful to make sure to keep the liner together with the rub-on, which is the top layer here. Then I can gently separate those, and holding this carefully so that I'm not touching the design on the back side of that acetate piece, then I can kind of position where I might want this to go. I'll place it right down here for now, and then smooth that down in place. There's a bit of tack to the back of the rub-on piece, which is nice. It won't slide around as you're applying it, so that really helps. Burnish that in place with your finger, and then grab your bone folder and just gently but firmly burnish this in place. So I'm using some firm pressure here, and I'm just going all over the design, especially on the tips and the edges of those leaves. So I want to make sure that I get all of the little detail areas. And then from here I can grab up one side, and I'll just slowly peel this back. And I'm doing this slowly because if I notice that there's an area that did not transfer, I can come back and reposition this and continue rubbing to transfer the design. But it looks like it's all come off, and you can see how beautifully that adds into the overall design of this cutout. So I really do like those rub-ons for adding another little bit of texture and dimension to your projects. Really easy. So I've got my large white flower, I've got my 2 foliage pieces on here, and then I've added the mushroom right on top. I have another butterfly here. This is a chipboard element, and then the always positive chipboard message here too. Then on the inside of the card, I've got one of the square cutouts from the paper pack, and I also did some inking around the outside edge before gluing this down in place. I've got some more rub-ons on here as well, and then I've added the Dream Big chipboard element. There's another Dream Big sentiment that is on the inside of the paper pack, and I've used this here with some foam tape on the front of my card with this sweet little fairy chipboard die cut. Behind her I've got rub-ons, and I've also got the square cutout and lots of layers with the gold and the green foliage, as well as our pattern paper. So there's a lot in terms of layers for this card. Let's start at the bottom and we can work our way up. So first I've covered the front of my card with the plaid pattern paper, and then I've added a strip of this wood grain paper along the fold of the card. All of the edges are inked with the blending brush and the Muddy Boots ink pad. So around the outside edge here, as well as in between these 2 pattern papers, to again give a little bit of visual difference between those 2 designs. I've also inked around the outside edges of the square cutout too. There are 2 foliage rub-ons that I've used, so one right here and one here, and these are from the Trees set. So this beautiful piece here, as well as this one down here too. So those worked beautifully with those pattern papers, and they also kind of mimic the direction of her wings on here as well. Then I've also got some die cut foliage tucked behind her wings as well, so you can see the green as well as 2 gold pieces here. I'm using the Golden Botanical die set for this, and I love this foliage element right here. This can be used as is. It can also be trimmed apart after you've die cut the shape so that you can use it in little portions if you want to. So I've die cut one from the green cardstock, and then a second one from gold sequin cardstock. So let me show you this. This is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of non-shedding glitter cardstock. It has a diamond glitter finish that looks like sequins. And the great thing is that you can easily cut it. You can cut it with your scissors, paper trimmer. You can also easily die cut it, even with dies that are fairly detailed like this one. So let me show you this. I've got it, a piece of that scrap brown cardstock, and then the foliage element here. Just take a look. It's really detailed, but it die cuts like a dream. Now, when it comes to gluing something down like this that is so intricate, I do really recommend using a glue in a precision applicator. This is just going to make it easier to get just the right amount of glue on some of these detail elements so that when you adhere this down to your surface, you don't have glue sort of going everywhere. So I've just added a little bit on all of these tips of the foliage, and then also down at the base and kind of in some of these other areas here. Maybe I missed that piece. And then you can simply flip it over and position it onto your paper or cardstock. And this way you don't end up with excess glue kind of going everywhere. But have a look. There's no glitter going everywhere. There's no glue going everywhere, which is really nice. So that's what I've used to create this kind of aura around behind our little fairy. So she's just glued right on top there, and then I've got my sentiment as well. Now for my card inside, I have more patterned paper, and this is here simply because I got ink on the inside of my card when I was inking the front. But I think it looks really nice, and it coordinates, of course, with the opposite side, with the plaid pattern paper and the rectangle cut with the rectangle cutout with the fairy. Now this is the fairy from the Fairies rub-on set. So she's this little one right here, and I've added her onto that cutout, inked around the edges, and then matted this onto some brown cardstock before gluing it into the inside of the card. And around the edges of the cutout, I've got some more foliage pieces from the Golden Botanicals die set, cut from light and dark green, and then added a little mushroom down here, and then I've got another rub-on to finish it off. Our final project is a Trifold surprise design, which opens like so and gives plenty of room for cutouts, die cuts, and rub-ons. This is also really easy to do with the help of a die. So here's the Trifold surprise card cutting die, and you've got one solid metal piece here, which is going to give you the foundation for your card. Project idea here on the front of the package, and you've got a second look at that project idea on the back of the package, as well as written instructions and a folding diagram with your M's and your V's indicating your mountain folds and valley folds. It's a super simple design to put together. So once you run your metal die through with your cardstock or your pattern papers, you'll have a piece that looks like this. So the die cuts out around the outside edge as well as the center cut here, and also will give you these score lines, which you will fold either a mountain fold or a valley fold. So you'll simply follow that diagram, fold this together, and then maybe grab that bone folder that you used for your rub-ons to give that a nice crisp edge. And there you go, you're ready to decorate from there. Now you can also kind of do some layering with different papers or cardstock. So if you wanted to have another paper or cardstock color showing here, what you can do is simply cut just a portion with that cutting die and then glue this in place. And when you're working with gluing two papers together over a fold, I recommend a glue stick for this. This seems to work the best. And simply position that in place, let that glue dry, and then you're ready to go. And you can decorate from there. And that's what I've done here with my card. So I've die cut the card base from dark brown cardstock from the Nature's Touch pack. And that gives me the perfect foundation for all the colors in the cutout that I have on the front. I've shaded around the outside edges with the Muddy Boots and the blending brush before matting that onto the lighter brown cardstock. My focal is accented with chipboard pieces, so the mushroom, the pine cone, those two leaves, and then in the center I have this pretty butterfly. And then on the inside, I've got the portion of patterned paper, which is die cut, with a portion of the cutting die, and I've glued that in place. And when I die cut that piece, I made sure to get this area with the leaves, which I thought was a really pretty accent in the corner. And I've added the mushroom rub-on and the butterfly. These are both from the frog rub-on set. And this is our final project of the day today. So a special thank you to our friends at Stamperia for yet again another really fun collection to work with. And a big thanks to you for joining me today. We're really glad you're here and we're happy you're a part of the Paper Wishes family. Do feel free to leave a comment. We love to hear what you think. Each item can be purchased separately and you can see them below. However, we've also bundled them into a creative money saver just for you. For the money saver, see this webisode on paperwishes.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube, just have a look in the description box below this video. You'll find a link that will take you to our Paper Wishes webisodes page, and you can see everything I just mentioned. If you enjoyed our video today, we'd really appreciate a thumbs up. It helps people to find our channel. And don't forget to subscribe. We create 6 videos each week, so there's always something fun to inspire your creative spirit.